So I had a few questions, particularly on basically on how Samaritans view and handle death. We all die, and normally, unlike with the Samaritan Passover, this is for most people. If you visit another religion, it'll be because someone has passed away. Like we go to
Hmm.
each other's funerals all the time. So, for starters, I would like to ask, how do Samaritans view the afterlife? Like, basically, where do you go when you die, and is there any, and where would they view? Is there any difference between Samaritan afterlife and non-Samaritan afterlife, or is this debated? Because I know, like in Judaism, there's a wide range of beliefs, and I think there is even one sect of Judaism that didn't even believe in life after death at all. So, what is the Samaritan view of the afterlife in this regard?
Okay. So, first of all, for us, the Torah really didn't specify in details what happens after the afterlife, after death, sorry. So, we do not exactly have a story of basically going to heaven and being judged or anything like that, for sure. The traditional belief in our case is that you go back to God, you go back to the source. That's really what, like, for example, when Enoch, the one of the
Mm, yes.
generations of Adam, basically was Enoch. It's the Torah says that he returned to God. Like in Hebrew, we say, "Ki leqa'utu Eluim," because God took him. Now, where did God take him? Did he take him to him? What does that even mean? The Torah did not specify. However, there is this oral tradition that we have that actually does mention heaven. It does mention that it is a place where we go to after death, but other than what happens exactly there and who goes there or anything like that, it really didn't specify all those details. Actually, there's the story of, for example, there's this one sage who wrote this really long poem that we read on Yom Kippur, on the night of Yom Kippur, and he talks about the last of days, basically Yom Necha Mushalem. Now, Yom Necha Mushalem is just one. It's just mentioned one time in the Samaritan Torah, and interestingly, this Yom Necha Mushalem, it means the day of judgment and revenge, if I want to literally translate it. But interestingly, this is not mentioned, and you cannot read this verse in the Masoretic text, actually,
Hmm.
in the Jewish
Really?
text. So yeah, it's written in the Azinu song. So in the last part of the Torah, in the fifth Deuteronomy book, basically. But basically you cannot see it in the Jewish Torah, like I said. So this is really what we have about it. So the Yom Necha Mushalim is actually considered one of the first five pillars of the Samaritan religion. So they are basically the belief in God, the belief in the Prophet Moses, the belief in the Torah, the belief in Mount Gerizim, and the fifth one is the belief in the day of repentance or the day of revenge and judgment. However, there's different interpretations by our Samaritan sages about what is this day. Some might interpret it as the day where someone dies, and some might interpret it as the day where basically God kind of perhaps restarts the world, or basically decides this person is going to heaven and this person is not. Now, we don't have the concept of hell in Torah, right?
Really?
However, we do have the concept of, if you do bad things, you will get bad things in return, if you don't follow the commandments of God and so on.
This actually makes me wonder in that regard, because so like if someone does, like, you have a Samaritan who completely ignores, even abandons the Samaritan religion,
Mm-hmm.
um and so in theory, has there been any talk about, like, would they go to some, like purgatory? Has reincarnation ever been suggested? I know that in certain schools of Judaism, they some of them have suggested reincarnation. In fact, so I was wondering if anything like that has been suggested, as far as what has been talked about, as far as, like, okay, what happens when you're a sinner and you die?
We don't
Then
have
what?
actually reincarnation. We don't.
Yeah.
Really, God created Adam and Eve, and then there is, and then there's Kenan and Cain and Habil, right?
Yeah.
Cain and Abel, right? And then when Abel died, there is no exact story of what happened to him after that. There's the story of when God told him, "Qul dam عائق صائقي لمن أضام." The sound of your brother is calling me from earth. And that you can say that's a metaphorical thing that God said, or some might interpret it as, the spirit. Now, I have to also mention that there is this mention of spirit, but for example, when God commanded the sons of Israel to not eat the blood, he said, because the spirit is in the blood. Ki addamu an-nafish, because the blood is the spirit. Now, that's the only thing. So how do you actually interpret that in the Samaritan, tradition and religion? There is no 100% consensus of where does the spirit go to, and so on,
So as far as life after death, it's so far as it's widely debated in Samaritanism. Unlike Christianity, and I know like Catholic versus Protestant, they both get very specific as to how it works. How many? Some I've even heard how many levels of heaven there are, or what purgatory is like, or what hell is like, and exactly how
we
you
have
find
Gan Eden. We do have Gan Eden, right? Because it's the story of Adam.
Eden?
Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. So we do have it. However, there is no, stories that we're going back to it. The heaven in the concept, in the concept of heaven in the Samaritan traditions is, you can say, kind of focused on, if you do the things that God has commanded you, your life will be so good that you don't even need heaven. You know what I mean? That's the idea of the Samaritan religion. Because God says in the Torah, he says, you will be blessed wherever you go. You will be blessed when you come. You will be blessed when you go. Your crops will be blessed. You will give nations, and you don't take from nations. Now, that sounds like heaven. You know what I mean? It's just abundance and just beautiful life. Now, that's what we have, and the concept of hell is the exact opposite of that. And the Torah does mention that you will take from nations, and you will not be able to bring them, the loan back, or your neighbor will be just above you and you'll become lower. All these blessings and cursings are written, and that's why they're at the center of this whole thing.
No, that's quite interesting. I know some other religions in the world that have a similar. It's a very different approach to, say, Christianity as far as afterlife. Like, we're almost exclusively focused on that, and to the point where we don't care what life is like here quite well. So it's a very different approach. So my next question would be, as approaching actual death itself, how is it handled practically? So, you have anything that's like last rites, or that you say as you die, in the Samaritan religion? I believe Muslims are supposed to say the Shahada. Mm-hmm. The Jews pronounce the Shema. Christians are, at least traditional Catholic Christians like myself, we invoke the name of Jesus over and over again, is what we're supposed to do. And there's certain ceremonies of blessings that we also receive in the Catholic tradition of last rites. What about the Samaritans? What would happen when it's time for them to pass on?
So I would say there is no specific verses that you would read. There's no requirements of anything, but the usual thing that people do is they would pronounce the Shema, and they would also specifically more commonly sometimes say Shalom Shema al Mushi, peace be on Moses. That's the thing that we sometimes recite, and that doesn't only go before death. It can also be in hard situations, really, in situations where you are feeling like it's overwhelming, or someone has passed away and you're feeling overwhelmed. See, these kinds of things. So
yeah, that's yeah. My next question is the funeral itself. So I know in the Catholic tradition is a Requiem Mass, the simple prayer in Islam, and is Kaddish in Judaism. What would essentially a Samaritan funeral look like? And because I know this is one thing I have no idea about at all. I've actually done some reading on the Samaritan religion, but this is the one area which I know nothing is the funeral itself, which I found, again, unusual, because this is the most common thing people, when you go to another religion, this would be what before. So what would a Samaritan funeral look like? What would it consist of? What would the length be? And also what etiquette, what would the funeral etiquette look like, both for Samaritans and for visitors at a Samaritan funeral?
Sure. So first of all, when someone passes away, before basically covering his whole body with a sheet, like respect, out of respect to him, covering
Like
his
a
face and
shroud.
everything, they read they read parts of Azinu, basically.
As you know,
Not all of it,
I'm
so
not.
just certain parts of it. And
Oh, like Azinu, I forgive me, I'm not quite familiar with what Azinu is.
sorry. So the one that basically starts with, I make the heavens and the earth witness to you. You know, this is
Mhm.
the last part of Deuteronomy, basically. The song
Yeah.
of Azinu. It's known as the song of Azinu. So it's basically a covenant that basically God commanded Moses to teach it to the sons of Israel. So you can find it at the end of Deuteronomy. It starts with Hazinu Hashemayim Vidabera. Like the heavens, the earth shall hear me, so that I can be witness. You know, these, or they can
Mm.
be witness. So they read really one small part of it, the beginning of it, and some other verses, and then uh, there's one or two people in the community that volunteers. Usually the older people, the priests, one of the priests, they volunteer to read the first and last books of the Torah. So Barashit,
Entirely?
yeah, entirely. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so the Barashit and the Ela Devarim, it's called. So the Genesis and Deuteronomy. In
The entire.
usually, if you know, usually there's about 6 to 8 hours, before burying the person.
It's a long funeral.
So it's a long funeral. Now, not everyone has to attend all those. It's usually the relatives who are there. And then by the last, so what's at the end of the fifth book? What's the last few verses of Deuteronomy? They are the Azinu, the song of Azinu, and the blessings of Moses. Now, the person who reads those parts, he keeps reading until he reaches those few verses. These are read by all the community, or really all the people who are attending the funeral, which is usually most of the community who would come. But it would be read basically on the way while they're carrying the casket uh, of the deceased to the cemetery. So this way, like, which usually takes about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, yeah, basically they read it on the way, and then just before putting his casket in earth, just the moment they put the casket in the floor to basically bury him, uh, the verse of Re'u'atta ki ani ani'u, behold now, because I am that I am, or I am the Lord. And then they, continue that. And then after that, basically the family waits it goes to a specific place where they wait for the others to, um, you know, basically give their condolences and so on. So
And so it's where would most of this take place? Like in a synagogue, or in the person's home, or in a outdoors?
usually it begins in the person's home. And then after that, the continuation is in around the cemetery. There's a specific place,
Mm.
like a
It's
hut.
like yeah. I'll have more questions on the cemetery in itself in a bit. But like, is there any like a reception after? Do you like? I know where I'm from. There's usually a bit of a. It's not part of the religion, but it's usually customary to have like a reception or food afterwards, and it's
Okay.
like
Yeah,
sandwiches. I know.
there is basically the in Arabic we call it ta'ziyah, really,
Mhm.
and it's usually that the family of the non, like the other families, they cook for the family of the deceased, basically. So
Yeah, it's a similar custom. We have a similar custom. I remember when my grandfather died. I remember there were a lot of people would come bring us food to our house. That happened even over here. So I guess it's a very universal custom
yeah.
in a certain sense. I also was I also I'm wondering what how do you dress for a Samaritan funeral? Like I know in some like Hindu culture, you dress down. You're like in a t-shirt and shorts. In I know in my area it's more. In some places it's very formal. You almost like a tuxedo. Other places it's more mixed. My area is somewhere in the middle. What's the Samaritan custom, and what would you expect for non-Samaritans who are visiting for a Samaritan funeral to do?
There is, I think, it's a pretty universal thing where the women would wear black, and the
Mm.
men would also, just restrain from wearing overall over flashy things,
Yeah,
for at least a week.
but
And
it's
they would
like
also
aside
restrain
from
from the women would restrain from makeup as well. That's one thing.
yeah.
But yeah, other than that, there's no specific thing, you know.
Yeah, so if I the way I'm dressed now, if I showed up at a funeral, it would not be
That's still
totally not totally out of place.
totally fine.
Okay.
But I totally get your
Like,
question because I heard in China, if you wear white, that's the color white is like black in
is
other countries.
is like a funeral custom. I know there is actually a case where in some cases white is actually even the Western Christian tradition a mourning color on rare occasions. Like I've heard that when Queen Elizabeth II became queen, her mother went to Paris, France, but she was still technically in mourning. So, but you don't wear black when you're going to Paris. That's state of fashion. So she decided she would wear this more or less subdued but classy white outfit instead. So in some cases, usually white is a very joyful
Right.
color, or even purple. Actually, is
How joyful.
quite quite is quite common here as well. What is the Samaritan cemetery like? Also, like with a how do you mark graves, or do you mark graves? Because I've heard in some cases some people have these huge monuments. The Egyptians famously had the pyramids,
Right.
tombstones. Where I am, I've heard in some cases I've heard you have a pile of stones. Sometimes where I live, a soldier might have if you're poor, you might have a simple cross on the grave. What is a Samaritan custom? And do you mark people's names on the graves?
We do mark the names in ancient Hebrew, actually, most of the, like 99% of the time. And it looks like really it's like just a normal grave. Really, there's no specific thing. It's usually
There is no such thing as normal grave here. Remember, like everyone has different customs around the globe. So
yeah.
Is it like a
What?
pile of stones,
Good
a
question.
tombstone?
It's when you say tombstone, it's just like it's just a box that is made from stone. It looks like a box
It's
made from stone.
like a box.
That's
Yeah. Like
is that a tombstone basically?
where I live, it's actually different. It's you have like it's almost like you know what a standing stone would look like.
Uh huh.
It's kind of like that where I live. Like it's like a stone slab. It's put upright, standing erect, and right in front of it would be where the person's body would have been laid.
Okay.
Uh, and that would be the custom where that's more or less that would be the custom where I live if they have a tombstone.
Okay.
Um,
Right. So yeah, no,
so
and also one tradition is that the when you put the person in the casket, his body would be slightly tilted towards Mount Gerizim, basically,
yeah.
out of respect, because that's one tradition we have, because we also pray towards Har Gerizim. So
Yeah. Um, how would do you commemorate people after they've died? Like I know in
yeah,
some
we do.
cases, like
That's
anniversary of their death each year, or how
yes,
frequently would you do so?
yes, we
Like,
do. It's usually once or twice a year, and before the starts of the Chagim, basically before the starts of the festivals.
what would the prayer consist of, more or less? And what would the prayer ask for?
It would be the first parts of Azinu, really,
So,
and some
so,
other
so
parts. Yeah.
commemorate the dead, and you don't commemorate the anniversary of the person's death generally. And is it's also the cemetery? That's another question.
It can be.
Do you
It's a
typically,
personal thing maybe for each family.
yeah, but is it more customary? I know I had a Muslim friend. He said, like, I think it was a Muslim or Jewish friend. I forget what it was. He said that in his tradition, you generally put the person in the ground, you never visit them again.
Hmm.
And I know someone told me that some Christian sects are the same way. Some Christian sects are the exact polar opposite, and you're trying to visit as often as you can.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so, but like commemoration of that is not like a daily recurring thing. You would, for the most part.
No,
No.
it's really a traditional thing. Not even I wouldn't even call it tradition. It's just something that our ancestors has been doing, and it's kind of like visiting the person's grave. To kind of remember him and just give him blessings of what's like really remembering is something. That's what in Judaism, when someone dies, they call him zichrono livracha, right? So his memory be blessed. So you go there to bless him and bless his memory, really. So.
Now, also, the next question is, and this is probably this is one question, but it's two questions.
Okay.
What would it's when what happens? This is of course the most common instance when we go to other religions is when someone dies. So my one question: what would you tell? What would be expected of a non-Samaritan visiting a Samaritan funeral? Like as far as participation goes, what do you do? What don't you do? We're okay if you don't do this, etc. And also, what happens when a non-Samaritan friend dies? What are the rules that you have to follow as Samaritan when a non-Samaritan friend dies, and what can you do to commemorate a non-Samaritan friend's death? And I know you guys can't get the full Samaritan funeral, I assume. That would be quite unusual.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything specific we do. We just go and we commemorate. And for example, in Islam, we would say the same thing as they do. It's عَظَّمَ اللَّهُ أَجْرَكُمْ in Arabic, which really is what Muslims would say to others. We actually say what they would say. And same thing for Judaism, We would
so
say,
you can go to the.
مشتتفين بتصالحهم, right?
So as a Samaritan, you can go, and this is probably not true for all religions, but as far as like Samaritan Islam and Judaism, you could theoretically go to their funerals and take part fully in their prayers.
You
If
don't take part of the prayers. It's just you just say the thing that they say for condolences. And I think I forgot to mention that the people who carry the casket are basically people required to take a shower or a bath after.
inter mikveh, I would assume.
Yes.
Yeah, inter mikveh. Yeah, it's
Even though
so if
mikveh necessarily these days, it's just a shower. But a mikveh would be what a woman would do after her, finishing of the 7 days of her menstruation, basically.
Okay, good. So essentially, when you go to Samaritan funerals, I know my church is quite strict. Like, so we stand in the back, we can stand up, we can sit down, we can go to reception, but taking part of the prayers for us would be a hard line we are not allowed to cross for us. Similar to in the Samaritan religion, I would assume for them.
Yeah, we don't take part of the prayers really because we have our own prayers and the only thing that we share is like I told you this small sentence they might say, which really doesn't mean anything like it just means
like I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah,
is what we would say. Same thing, and but could you actually attend the Muslim funeral itself if you stood in the back and didn't say the prayers and just stood up, sit down, more respectfully?
100%, yeah.
Yeah. Grief over, and how would you handle it personally? Because I know this is actually a big problem I know among Christians is when they have someone who's outside of the religious community who has passed away. It is a common debate of how do you mentally process this and handle this, because that's for us it's a huge deal. And different branches of Christianity have different ways of dealing with it. Like the Mormons do post-osmos baptisms for everyone. I'm sure at some point I'm going to be a Mormon is going to post-osmously baptize me whether they want it or not. Mm-hmm. I know Protestants, they debate it quite a bit. There actually is set rules in the Catholic tradition, which is not well known. I asked the priest, is you can say mass privately, you can't mention their name. You can always pray the normal prayers to the dead that you pray on your own for anyone who's died. So if you were to privately handle your grief, bring your grief before God, would you say the Azino, or just say a prayer on your own, or
how would you praying? Is definitely one thing. You're more calm in your prayer. You're more kind of attached in the prayer and to God. That's one thing that happens. And usually you read the Torah, because we don't necessarily read every day. It is a tradition to just read mostly on Shabbat, and we have some people who read every day. But on during the days of grief, you do actually read parts of the Torah. You're more meditative during those days. You're more aware. You're more, because you're going through something. You're still processing the loss of someone that used to be in your life. So you naturally that you do have those things. But I think there's also this mentioning of in the Torah, in our traditions as well, too much grieving is also mentioned as not a good.
Yeah, like there's a point where there's a point where I would say most traditions would agree with it's like again like even the traditions to commemorate endlessly. It's more the is that you're helping the person, not falling into depression,
Of course.
more or less. Is the idea, and so yeah, it's but it does help to read the Torah in a time of grief
Yes,
like that.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So yeah, that's
So
pretty
those
much it.
yeah. Is there anything else about Samaritan death and burial practices that I should be aware of? Like, how is the body prepared? And also, I should mention this because you were a Cohen. If I were, you were a Cohen.
Yes.
You're the direct male and descendant of Aaron. And I know in Judaism there are rules about how a Cohen has to act around a dead body in a
Mm.
funeral. I'm how does that act in how is it in Samaritanism?
We don't have anything that is different than non-Kohens. Like the Kohens would do the same, and
But you can go near a dead body essentially.
yes, I mean you don't. If you don't have any business, you don't do it, right? If you wanna carry the casket as out of respect to the deceased, like sometimes you would only need 4 people to carry the casket, but out of respect for the family, sometimes other people would join. It's almost like I want to help. I want to help even if it's gonna make me impure for a few minutes or hours. So people would do that, but there is no specific way to prepare the body. There is no need for people
Not like washing in
wash it.
Judaism.
You don't need it, no, because it's gonna be impure anyway. Maybe out of respect for the person, if he is not clean by any chance, then yeah, you can just out of respect give him a respectful last shower to kind of let him rest in peace, like they say. But no, it's not it's not a demand really. So
That was quite. So that was essentially most of my questions for now on Samaritan
it's
burial
interesting
practice.
because there's I think I've had questions before on death in the community, and it is a subject I never actually uncovered, and I'm planning on writing on it in my book. So
And that would be fascinating. And life after death is actually debated in the community even today. It's a small community, but there's still a wide range of debate. What exactly?
Yeah.
But what I gather, it's not a huge top priority concern in Samaritanism. It's not something that Samaritans preoccupy.
What's important is life now, and like, well, people who passed away, they passed away. There's a reason we believe in the Torah that when Moses passed away, the Torah did not mention or where was he buried. It says somewhere in how is it mentioned in the Torah? Moab, in the land of Moab. However, it also says, and no one knew his tomb till this day, or his grave till this day, or where his grave is this day. And perhaps, and what the tradition says, if you ask our elders why, they will tell you in order not to glorify Moses too much, because he was an incredible prophet for the sons of Israel, that they almost would have made an idol out of him. But he just passed away, and there's a story from him that we know, and we still say Shalom Shem al Moshe, we say like peace be on Moses, and we still respect him so much. But when it comes to his body, he just passed away. So the zecher is what stays, really. The memory is what stays. And if you feel like you want to contact the person in your dreams or in your thoughts, go ahead, as long as you don't really.
You can actually.
No, I'm not saying you can actually do that. I'm saying that if you want to do that because it makes you feel better, or if you believe that you are actually in contact with them, there is nothing in our tradition or religion that says don't do it. Because people want to maybe have their own nice closure. I'm saying the Torah didn't mention that that's forbidden. So
Thanks. Anyway, thank you so much for answering my questions. Hopefully I interview you again at some point in the future. I got a ton of questions about Samaritan views on a whole bunch of things.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I hope I talk to you again soon, and hopefully I will be back in the Holy Land in the next month or few months. In
Awesome.
Canada right now. But anyway, hope regardless, either online or in person, hope to see you soon. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you for coming up, Thomas. God bless you. Bye bye.